guys! So today's video is going to be very personal and I hope this is helpful and inspiring for some of you. So today I'm going to talk about heartbreaks. I've tried to film this video a couple of times already, like I've been like, oh, you know, that's an interesting thing, I should talk about it, let's film this. But I never really felt ready. But yeah, that's important. Like I cannot really believe I've never really talked about that on this channel, because I talk about everything and I talk about my personal life and I've shared with you a few very difficult moments of my life. So, you know, when people hear the word or the words heartbreak or heartbroken, most of the time they're gonna think of relationships, like romantic relationships and, you know, couples just falling apart and that sort of thing. While this is completely true and probably one of the biggest reasons why people feel heartbroken, it's definitely not the only reason, and it's definitely not the only situation and circumstance in which you can be heartbroken, unfortunately. And we all have very different ways to react to being this way or feeling this way. We all have very different experiences, but at the end of the day, the feeling of pain is something that's pretty universal, because I believe that ultimately everyone in one's life is gonna be heartbroken. And that's just, you know, if you look at it that way, you sort of see it as a natural process, something that needs to happen for you to grow, for you to understand a few things, you know, just like, you know, you lose your hair when you get older, or your teeth fall out and new ones appear, you know, sometimes, or a few sicknesses even, you know, happen when you're a child, and that's just normal, and then you're good for the rest of your life. Those things are not pleasant, but they're part of our lives, and I think that heartbreaks should be seen in that light, so that they would be still very painful, but not as painful and not as destroying as we sometimes and very often feel they are. So in my personal life, I've obviously experienced many different things that were not pleasant, some that were really painful, some that were really sad, upsetting, disappointing. All of those things, however, for me personally, do not qualify as heartbreaks. Like I haven't been heartbroken every single time something bad happened to me. However, there are at least three major events in my life that I would qualify as heartbreaks. First one, I think, for me was when I was 14 or 15, and I was in love with this guy online. So we were not living in the same country, we're not the same age, everything was different, and I still love that person very much. We're still in touch somehow, more or less. It's someone that I care for very, very much, and that I love deeply, and someone that's shaped me in a way that no one else has. Like I've never been someone that's very easy to influence, and people do not usually impact me. I'm a very independent thinker and a very free thinker, but this person just influenced me and shaped me so much, so it's not very surprising to see that he is the one that made me the most miserable and the first one that really broke my heart. So whatever, long story short, I loved him. He was not a very nice person at that time, and he made me really, really sad, and I remember feeling so heartbroken at that time. It was a pain that was just new for me. I'd never had to be in that sort of relationship with anyone, so it was very new and very isolating, because I didn't know how to respond to that. I didn't want to talk about it to anyone, and I did not know how to say what was happening to me. And I remember at that time thinking, it's the one and only time someone's gonna break my heart. Quite frankly, I've done quite well with that. Like for me, it was such a shock to see how my being and how my strength and independency could be just like by someone. I was like, I am not willing to live any of that anymore. The second heartbreak that was probably the hardest and the most painful for me to experience is when my parents decided to break. It happened when I was 18, and you know, every separation is different, every breakup is different. For my parents, it was not a good one. I'm pretty sure you guys know, with family sometimes things can get really ugly. In my case, it went very, very ugly. This pain was like the most unbearable pain I've had to live and to experience. And I do not think, apart from the death of people I love, that anything can come even close to what I felt. Being a child and seeing your parents unhappy, at least for me, the way I reacted was I just wanted to grow up and become an adult and help them being happy together. And basically all of my dreams and all of my hopes were for my parents. And when I realized that this was not going to be a thing anymore, I was left feeling completely meaningless. Like I felt like my life had no point anymore, had no past anymore, because I had no family anymore, and I had no future, because who would care? Like if I wanted to get married, what would happen? My parents are not together anymore, and they don't talk to each other, and they hate each other. Everything would be divided into two. There would be no happy and truly happy and joyful thing in my future that involved other people. Like it was gonna be me alone, and what's the point of me alone? No matter what I was doing, no matter who I was with, where I was, no matter I was sitting down, lying down, standing up, leaning against something, it felt like my body was heavy and hurting every single second, and I just could not find a way to release the pain. And then I fell into depression shortly after that without even realizing it, and a year later anxiety kicked in. The third and final heartbreak I want to talk about is the one that you witnessed with Mr. Herbs. It wasn't really about Mr. Herbs that much. I realized that it was not really about him, even though yes, it did pain me and hurt me to see him go away, because I liked him very, very much. It was more so the acknowledgement and the realization that my asexuality was gonna be a big issue. The way he rejected me because he thought I was weird and because things were not going as he had hoped to, just made me realize that I was so fucking different. And you know, whenever I hear my friends whenever I hear my friends talk about dating or meeting people or whatever, whenever I read about it, whenever I watch a movie or a TV show, people do it in a way that's very similar. You know, everyone's different and every situation is unique, but people meet, people are attracted to each other, people kiss, and people have sex. And to realize that I was different and to realize that this was gonna be something difficult to deal with, and to realize that people would see that as being abnormal or broken or weird or just not worth spending time with or worth anything, it really broke my heart. That really, really broke my heart. It made me feel so ashamed and so miserable and so worthless. When you're asexual, you just like that one thing that everyone else has. How can you deal with that? Those three things that happened in my life, I am not gonna lie, still show in the person that I am now, still have an influence on the person that I am now, how I behave, how I choose things or decide to not do things or interact with people. A relationship with my parents and the divorce, the separation of my parents has, you know, obviously led me to depression, anxiety, dropping out of university, just feeling awfully bad about myself. I don't trust people very, very much. I don't believe in relationships very, very much. Sometimes I get this very heavy feeling of sadness whenever I see parents with their kids, or when I see the kids that I babysit being so happy with their two parents and doing things together as a family. This is like a wound that's never gonna go away. I have to deal with that. I have to live with that. I have to acknowledge, I have to accept that this is my history, that's my story, that's my experience, that's what I was made with and made of. It doesn't dictate everything that's gonna happen to me, but it is a very essential part of the first 19 years also of my life. Being heartbroken, you know, for the first time, it wasn't that much about the heartbreak, but just being with someone who was at that time, because now he's such a good person, but he was not a good person. He was very manipulative and he was very mean to me, and he really, as I said, shaped me. And you that's where I think most of my fears come from when it comes to guys and men. I always fear that men are gonna get angry or mad or yell at me or reject me or make fun of me or use me. I always worry about being a burden or bothering guys. The third heartbreak that I had with asexuality, yeah, obviously I don't live well with being asexual. It's something that weighs on my mind and shoulders very, very frequently. And the one thing I have learned in these years of living and these years of experiencing those heartbreaks is that as much as you try to prevent them from happening, if they are meant to happen, they're gonna happen. But that doesn't mean that you have to be reckless about things. That doesn't mean you have to just put yourself at risk. I see so many people saying or even romanticizing the idea of being heartbroken, and thinking that's unavoidable and that's gonna happen. Yes, it's gonna happen in your life at some point, but you should learn from those events. That's the one thing I would really tell people. Use your time more wisely. In life, you cannot have everything. Every single person's life is going to be made of yes and no, of choices that will either grant you things or deprive you of a few things. No matter what you choose, no matter what path you take, there's going to be a price in a way to pay. And that's normal, that is normal. So just be wise about the choices you make, about the experiences that you have, and also be humble in a way. No one told you that life would be easy. That's one thing I try to remind myself all the time. No one told me life was going to be easy. Life doesn't owe me anything, especially seeing how privileged I am and probably how privileged most people watching this video are. So we should just accept those hardships as they come and focus on the positive, and also just let time do its thing. Time does wonders. It does not erase what happened in the past, but it does help understand things. It does help bring a new perspective, and it does bring more people in your life, more experiences, more places, more adventure, more happiness. I hope this was somehow interesting. I don't really know what I wanted to do with that video. I guess I just wanted to share with you these experiences, perhaps to show you that everyone's different, but we are very, very similar as well. And I hope this is something you can relate to. And I just wanted to tell you as well, when those things happened, it felt like the end of the world to me. Now look at me. I have come to terms with what happened, and I am looking at the future, and I'm hoping for things, and I'm planning things, and I have projects and hopes and dreams. Happiness is not the absence of pain or the absence of sadness. Happiness, I believe, is just the balance of everything and the capacity that you have to choose the good over the bad. This was interesting, and please feel free to comment on this video, to share your experiences and the thoughts that you have about those topics, and I will see you soon, guys. Bye.